With the galaxy in ruins, humanity landed, and the war was never the same. Part 1. First contact gone wrong. The stars looked different from the observation deck of the Nova Horizon. Captain Alan Wright stood with his hands behind his back, watching the unfamiliar constellations. After 3 years in deep space, they had finally reached their destination, the edge of Confederation territory. "Captain, they're responding to our greeting," said Lieutenant Olivia Foster. Her voice was steady, but Alan noticed her fingers trembling slightly as she held the communication tablet. "On screen," he ordered. The large display flickered to life. The alien that appeared had blue-gray skin and large dark eyes. It spoke in a series of musical tones that the ship's computer quickly translated. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Ambassador Zrel of the Galactic Confederation. We have been monitoring your approach. Your arrival is unexpected." Alan stepped forward. "Ambassador, we come in peace. Humanity is eager to establish friendly relations with your people." The alien's face remained hard to read, but it tilted its head in what might have been curiosity. "Your species is young. We would learn more about you before formal introductions." "Of course," Alan replied. "We've prepared a cultural package. Lieutenant Foster has studied your transmission protocols and can send it immediately." Olivia nodded and transmitted the data package, a collection of Earth's history, art, literature, and scientific achievements. The standard first contact, offering, approved by the United Nations Space Command. The next 3 days passed in a flurry of activity. The Nova Horizon docked at the Confederation's border station, a massive wheel-shaped structure that rotated slowly in space. The human crew marveled at the variety of alien species they encountered. Tall, insect-like beings hurrying past squat, furry creatures with multiple arms. Technologies beyond human understanding hummed and glowed throughout the station. "Ambassador." Zrel introduced the command team to representatives from the 7 major species of the Confederation. Most seemed cautiously welcoming, especially the Tyranni, whose physical appearance most closely resembled humans. Only the Valori, ancient beings with translucent skin that revealed networks of glowing veins beneath, remained coldly distant. "They're the oldest species in the Confederation," Olivia told Alan during a private moment. "According to the data we've gathered, they've been spacefaring for over 50,000 years. No wonder they look at us like we're children," Alan remarked. Greg Nichols, the ship's communications specialist, joined them. "Captain, something strange is happening. Most of the aliens have stopped talking to us, and I've noticed them removing our crew from certain areas of the station." "I've seen it too," Olivia added. "The Tyranni representative who was so friendly yesterday wouldn't even look at me this morning." Alan frowned. "They've had time to review our cultural package. Maybe they found something they didn't like." "Our history," Susan Miller, the chief engineer, suggested as she approached the group. "We included everything, including our wars." Olivia's eyes widened. "Our violent tendencies might frighten them." The next morning, Alan was awakened by an urgent call from Olivia. "Captain, I need you in Section 12 immediately. I've found something." When he arrived, Olivia was standing in an empty corridor, her face pale. "I couldn't sleep, so I was exploring. I found an unlocked terminal and managed to access some of their communications." "You did what?" Alan's voice rose in alarm. "I know it was against protocol, but something felt wrong." She handed him a tablet. "They're planning to quarantine Earth, sir. The Valori Council voted last night. They've decided our species is too dangerous to join the galactic community." Alan scanned the translated text, his heart sinking. "They're sending a fleet to establish a blockade around our solar system. No ships in or out." "It gets worse," Olivia said quietly. "Some of the Valori are pushing for more permanent containment measures. They're afraid we'll eventually develop technology to rival theirs." Alan's decision was immediate. "We need to warn Earth. Gather the crew. We're leaving. Now." But as they rushed back to the Nova Horizon, alarm sirens began to wail throughout the station. A Confederation security team intercepted them near the docking bay, weapons drawn. "Your vessel is now under Confederation control," announced the leader. a tall Valori whose veins pulsed with bright red light. Your attempt to access restricted information is a violation of Confederation law. We've done nothing wrong, Alan protested. We simply need to return to our home. After learning of your quarantine plans, Olivia added, you can't just lock our entire species away without giving us a chance. The Valori's eyes narrowed. Your cultural package revealed the, truth. Your kind solves problems through violence. You've had thousands of wars on your small planet. The Confederation will not allow such aggression to spread among the stars. Greg stepped forward. You can't judge our entire species based on... He never finished his sentence. The Valori raised a hand device, and Greg collapsed to the floor, unconscious. Take them, the Valori ordered. Alan wasn't going to let his crew be captured without a fight. He lunged at the nearest guard, creating enough confusion for Olivia and Susan to break free. Run for the ship, he shouted. What followed was chaos. Alarms blared as the three of them raced through the station toward their docked vessel. They managed to reach the Nova horizon and seal the airlock just as Confederation forces converged. On the docking bay, get us out of here, Susan, Alan commanded as he strapped into the captain's chair. The ship's engines roared to life. Susan piloted them away from the station, but multiple Confederation vessels were already moving to intercept. They're locking weapons, Olivia called from the tactical station. Evasive maneuvers, Alan ordered. Set course for Earth, maximum speed. The Nova horizon shuddered as the first energy beam struck its shields. They wouldn't last long against such advanced weapons. We need to get word back to Earth, Alan said grimly. Prepare the emergency beacon and escape pod. As the ship took more hits, systems began to fail. Alan made his final decision. Olivia, Greg, Susan, take the escape pod. I'll stay and keep them busy as long as possible. Captain, no, Olivia protested. That's an order, Lieutenant. Earth needs to know what's coming. He looked at each of them. The pod's small enough to slip past their blockade. Head for the trading outpost in the Proxima system. You might find allies there. Greg was unconscious but breathing steadily as the women dragged him to the escape pod. As Olivia strapped herself in, she looked back at Alan one last time through the closing door. Tell them, he said simply. Tell them everything. The pod ejected moments before the Nova horizon exploded in a brilliant flash of light. As Olivia watched the destruction through the small viewport, she knew humanity's first contact with the galaxy had gone terribly wrong. And somewhere across the stars, unknown to them all, a mysterious force was already moving, systematically destroying Confederation worlds one by one. With the galaxy in ruins, humanity landed, and the war was never the same. Part 2. The edge of extinction 50 years had passed since the Nova Horizon incident. Commander Jack Hayes stood on the bridge of the Defiance, the last functional human battle carrier. Through the viewscreen, he watched the asteroid field of Tau Ceti, where they had hidden for the past 3 months. The ship's stealth systems were active, masking their heat signature from Confederation patrols. Status report, Jack said, his voice quiet but firm. All systems nominal, Commander, replied Frank Turner from the tactical station. The breakthrough remains secure in the shadow of the large asteroid. Jack nodded. The breakthrough was humanity's last hope, a civilian research vessel where Dr. Diane Wells and her team worked to reverse engineer captured alien technology. Jack's mission was simple: protect the breakthrough at all costs. In the 50 years since first contact, Earth had changed beyond recognition. The Confederation's war fleet had arrived 3 years after the Nova Horizon was destroyed. Despite the warning from the survivors, Earth had no defense against such advanced weapons. Billions died in the first wave of attacks. Now, less than 1 million humans remained, scattered across hidden bases and underground shelters. The door to the bridge slid open, and Medical Officer Patricia Rodriguez entered. Commander, you've been on duty for 18 hours straight. You need rest. Jack shook his head. Not now, Patricia. The latest intelligence suggests increased Confederation activity in this sector. All the more reason to be at your best, she countered. The crew needs you sharp. I can make it a medical order if necessary. Before Jack could respond, the alert system flashed red. "Proximity warning," Frank called out. "Confederation patrol. 3 ships approaching from Sector 7. "Battle stations," Jack ordered. "Power up defensive systems, but maintain stealth. Protocols as long as possible." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. This wasn't their first encounter with Confederation forces. "They're scanning the asteroid field," Frank reported. "Standard search pattern. They haven't spotted us yet." Jack's mind raced through options. If they stayed hidden, the patrol might pass by. But if the aliens detected the breakthrough, everything would be lost. "Sir," Frank's voice was tight. "They've changed course. They're heading directly toward the breakthrough's position." Jack made his decision instantly. "Drop stealth. Power weapons and shields. Position us between the patrol and the breakthrough." The Defiance's engines roared to life, pushing the ship out from its hiding place. The sudden movement caught the Confederation patrol by surprise. "Open a channel to the breakthrough," Jack ordered. Dr. Wells's face appeared on the screen. Her eyes widened as she realized what was happening. "Diane, you need to go now," Jack said firmly. "We'll buy you time. Get to the rendezvous point and finish your work." "Jack, no," she began. "That's an order, Doctor. Humanity can't afford to lose what you've discovered." His voice softened slightly. "We knew this day might come." The connection closed. Jack turned to his crew. "Target the lead vessel. Fire when ready." The Defiance's weapons blazed across space, striking the Confederation ship. But the enemy's shields held. "They're returning fire," Frank warned. The first hit rocked the ship. Jack held onto his command chair as systems sparked around him. "Breakthrough is powering engines," Patricia reported from a secondary console. "They're making a run for the jump point." "All power to the forward shields," Jack ordered. "Keep the Confederation ships focused on us." The battle was brief, but fierce. The Defiance, though Earth's most advanced warship, was no match for 3 Confederation vessels. Systems failed across the ship as hit after hit landed. "Hull breach on decks 3 through 5, Frank reported calmly. "Engines at 12%, weapons offline." Jack watched the tactical display. The breakthrough was nearing the jump point, but one of the Confederation ships had broken off pursuit of the Defiance. "They're going after the breakthrough," Patricia said, voicing what they all saw. Jack made his final decision. Set collision course with the pursuing vessel. All remaining power to engines. Patricia looked at him in shock. "Commander, do it," he said quietly. "We always knew this might be a one-way mission." As the crew carried out his orders, Jack opened the ship-wide comm. "All hands, abandon ship. Get to the escape pods, that's an order." Most of the crew was already dead or wounded. Only a handful made it to the pods. Jack stayed on the bridge with Frank and Patricia, guiding the dying ship toward its target. "The breakthrough has reached the jump point," Frank reported. "They've escaped." Jack allowed himself a small smile. "Then we've done our job." The Defiance, burning and broken, accelerated toward the Confederation vessel. At the last moment, the alien ship attempted to veer away, but it was too late. The impact tore through both ships, sending debris spinning through space. In the chaos, a small group of survivors, Jack, Patricia, Frank, and 4 others, managed to board an undamaged section of the Confederation scout ship that had broken off from the main vessel before impact. Working quickly, they sealed the compartments and accessed the alien controls. "Can you fly this thing?" Jack asked Frank, who had studied Confederation technology. "I think so," Frank replied, his hands moving over the unfamiliar control panel. "But we have limited life support and no weapons." "Where can we go?" Patricia asked. "Every human base is compromised or destroyed." Jack stared out at the stars. Dr. Wells's last transmission mentioned something important. The Confederation is fighting another enemy, a war on 2 fronts. She thinks the Valori have been lying about humanity's role in all this. He made his decision. "Set course for Valori." "Space? That's suicide," Frank protested. "We'll be heading straight into enemy territory." "Exactly," Jack replied. "It's the last place they'll expect us. And if Diane is right, we need to find out what the Valori are hiding." He looked at each of the survivors. We've spent 50 years running and hiding. Maybe it's time we took the fight to them. As the stolen ship moved away from the debris field, Jack watched the last pieces of the Defiance break apart and burn. 7 humans in a stolen alien ship, heading toward the heart of the Confederation. The odds were impossible, but humans had always been good at beating impossible odds. Somewhere in the darkness of space, the breakthrough carried humanity's hopes toward an uncertain future. And unknown to them all, a third force was moving through the galaxy, destroying everything in its path, a force that would soon change the nature of the war. With the galaxy in ruins, humanity landed, and the war was never the same. Part 3. The Truth Among Ruins. The stolen Confederation scout ship shuddered as it entered the atmosphere of Tarsus 4. Jack Hayes gripped the edge of the control panel as the ship bucked and trembled. "Can you steady it?" he asked Frank, who was fighting with the alien controls. "Trying," Frank replied through gritted teeth. These systems weren't designed for human hands. Patricia monitored the life support readings. Hull temperature rising. We're coming in too steep. The ship broke through the cloud layer, revealing the landscape below. Jack's eyes widened at the sight. Tarsus 4 had once been a core Confederation world, home to millions. Now it was a graveyard of shattered buildings and burned forests. "Find us a landing spot," Jack ordered. "Somewhere sheltered." Frank guided the damaged vessel toward what appeared to be the ruins of a large facility. The landing was rough, more of a controlled crash than a proper touchdown. The impact threw them all forward against their restraints. When the dust settled, Jack checked. On his team. "Everyone alive?" 6 faces looked back at him, shaken but unharmed. They had made it. "Atmosphere is breathable," Patricia reported after checking her instruments. "But radiation levels are higher than Earth normal. We shouldn't stay outside for extended periods." Jack nodded. "Gather whatever supplies and weapons you can find. We need to know what happened here." The team exited the ship into an alien landscape of destruction. Buildings of strange materials lay toppled and scorched. The sky had an unsettling green tint. "According to Confederation propaganda, this was a human attack," Frank said as they picked their way through the ruins. "They claim Earth forces used some kind of superweapon." Jack shook his head. "Earth never had that kind of firepower, and even at our peak, we couldn't have reached this far into Confederation space." They walked for hours, documenting the devastation. The pattern of destruction seemed odd, not random bombardment but precise, methodical, as if something had systematically taken the city apart piece by piece. "Commander," called one of the junior officers, pointing to a structure ahead. "That building is still partially intact." The facility was massive, with thick walls of a metal-like material that had withstood whatever destroyed the rest of the city. Over the entrance, alien symbols glowed faintly. "It's a Valori script," Frank said, studying the markings. "Scientific facility of some kind." "Can we get inside?" Jack asked. Frank examined the entrance. "The power is still working, at least partially. I might be able to bypass the security." While Frank worked on the door, Jack and Patricia scouted the perimeter. The facility showed signs of battle, scorch marks from energy weapons, and what appeared to be explosion damage. They were defending this place, Patricia observed. Whatever was inside, they wanted to protect it. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a darkened corridor. Jack led the way, weapon ready. The air inside was stale but breathable. Emergency lighting cast an eerie blue glow over alien equipment. "Look for anything that might tell us what they were studying here," Jack instructed. They moved deeper into the facility, passing laboratories filled with strange devices. In one room, they found what appeared to be holding cells. "They were keeping prisoners here," Patricia said, examining the broken restraints. A noise from the next room put them all on alert. Jack signaled for silence as they approached the doorway. He counted down with his fingers. 3, 2, 1. They burst into the room, weapons raised. A figure scrambled back into a corner, hands raised. "Don't shoot!" the figure called out in English. "I'm human." Jack lowered his weapon slightly. "Identify yourself." The man stepped forward into the light. He was thin and pale, with a wild beard and haunted eyes. Kyle Bennett, former science officer, Earth Defense Force. Jack exchanged glances with Patricia. The Earth Defense Force had been destroyed over 20 years ago. How long have you been here? Patricia asked. I lost track, Kyle said. Years. I was captured during the Battle of Proxima. The Valori brought me here for study. Study? Frank repeated. Kyle nodded. They were interested in human brain patterns, said they were different, special. He looked around nervously. We should keep moving. They might come back. Who might come back? Jack asked. The Confederation forces? Kyle laughed, a hollow sound. No, the Confederation is running scared just like humans. It's the Nexus you need to worry about. The Nexus? Patricia asked. The real enemy, Kyle explained. An ancient machine intelligence. The Valori awakened it while searching for new technology. Now it's consuming everything. Confederation worlds, human colonies, doesn't matter. It adapts and learns. And it's nearly unstoppable. Jack's mind raced. The Valori blamed humans for the destruction. They said we were the aggressors. Of course they did, Kyle said bitterly. They needed a scapegoat while they tried to figure out how to stop what they started. But there's more. He looked directly at Jack. They discovered something about humans. Our brains create interference patterns that disrupt Nexus communications. We're the only species whose minds can do that. That's why they were studying you, Patricia realized. Kyle nodded. And why they feared humanity from the start. Not because we're violent, but because we're the only ones who might be able to stop the Nexus. A distant rumble shook the building. Need to go, Kyle said urgently. This area isn't safe. As they made their way to another section of the facility, Kyle explained more. The Nexus had been dormant for thousands of years, an ancient weapon created by a long-extinct civilization. The Valori had found it and attempted to harness its power. Instead, they had awakened an intelligence that saw all organic life as a threat. In here, Kyle led them to a room filled with communication equipment. This is still working. I've been monitoring Confederation transmissions. Frank examined the alien technology. Can you show us recent messages? Kyle activated the system. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing Confederation ships under attack from strange, geometrically perfect vessels. The Nexus fleet, Kyle explained. They're losing badly. Another transmission showed a Valori commander speaking urgently. The computer translated. The human vessel breakthrough has been secured. Extract the research data immediately. Time is running out. Jack stepped closer. The breakthrough survived? Dr. Wells is alive? If this is recent? Yes, Kyle said. The Valori are desperate. They think whatever your doctor was working on might help them fight the Nexus. Before they could discuss further, alarms blared throughout the facility. Kyle rushed to a monitoring station. Nexus scout ships, he said, his face pale. They're landing outside. Jack made a quick decision. We need to see what we're dealing with. Frank, Patricia with me. The rest of you stay here with Kyle. The three humans crept to an observation point overlooking the main entrance. Outside, 3 sleek vessels had landed. As they watched, sections of the ships reconfigured themselves, forming humanoid shapes. They adapt their forms to match whatever environment they're in, Kyle whispered. The Nexus scouts began methodically searching the area, moving with unnatural precision. When they encountered debris, they didn't go around. They calculated the exact force needed to move it aside with maximum efficiency. Look at how they move, Frank said quietly. No wasted motion, no hesitation. Like machines, Patricia agreed. But then one of the scouts did something unexpected. When faced with a collapsed section of wall, instead of calculating the most efficient path, it feinted in one direction before going another. A purely human tactic. They're learning, Jack realized. Studying our strategies, our unpredictability. Kyle nodded grimly. That's what makes them so dangerous. They absorb and incorporate the best traits of every species they encounter. He paused. But they've had trouble with humans. Our thought patterns, our ability to make intuitive leaps, it confuses their systems. Jack watched the alien machines with new understanding. The Valori hadn't feared humanity's violence. They had feared the very unpredictability that might be the galaxy's only hope against the machine intelligence. We need to get this information to the remaining human forces, Jack said. And we need to find the breakthrough. As they retreated deeper into the facility, Jack's mind raced with possibilities. For the first time since the war began, humanity had something the enemy feared. Not their weapons, but their minds. The war was about to enter a new phase. With the galaxy in ruins, humanity landed, and the war was never the same. Part 4. The Human Variable. 6 months passed quickly on Tarsus 4. Jack Hayes stood at the edge of their hidden base, watching the alien sunrise. What had begun as a desperate hideout for 7 humans had grown into something more. 23 people now lived in the ruins of the Valori research facility, humans rescued from crashed ships and abandoned outposts, plus 3 Confederation defectors who had learned the truth. "Beautiful morning," said Patricia, joining him at the observation point. "Hard to believe there's a war going on out there." Jack nodded. "The calm won't last. Kyle picked up another Nexus patrol signal last night. The machine intelligence had been systematically searching nearby sectors, getting closer to their position with each sweep. So far, the interference created by the human presence had kept them hidden, an accidental defense that Kyle called cognitive camouflage. "Frank wants to see you," Patricia said. "He and Kir Ral think they've found something." Kir Ral was their most valuable ally, a Valori scientist who had broken ranks after discovering his leader's deception. Jack followed Patricia to the makeshift command center they had established in the lower levels of the facility. Frank and Kir Ral were hunched over a holographic display showing star charts and ship movements. "We've been tracking Confederation fleet communications," Frank explained when Jack entered. "Look at this pattern." The display showed a massive Confederation vessel moving through heavily guarded space. "The Valori High Command ship," Kir Ral said, his translucent skin glowing softly in the dim light. "And according to the transmission intercepts, they're holding your Dr. Wells on board." Jack leaned closer. "You're certain?" "The communications mention her by name," Frank confirmed. "They're using her research to develop some kind of weapon against the Nexus." "But they don't understand the human element," Kir Ral added. "My people are brilliant engineers, but they lack the intuitive understanding needed to complete the work." Jack considered their options. "Can we reach the command ship?" Frank nodded slowly. "Maybe. We've repaired one of the small Confederation shuttles. With Kir Ral's access codes, we might be able to approach unchallenged." "It would be extremely dangerous," Kir Ral warned. "If we're discovered, we've been living on borrowed time anyway," Jack interrupted. "If Dr. Wells has made progress against the Nexus, we need that information." The plan came together over the next 3 days. A small team, Jack, Patricia, Frank, and Kir Ral, would take the repaired shuttle to intercept the Valori command ship. Kyle would remain behind to coordinate the base. "Remember," Kir Ral instructed as they prepared to board the shuttle. "Once we're aboard, follow my lead. The command ship has thousands of Valori personnel. I can explain away a few humans as research subjects, but any suspicious behavior will trigger security protocols." The journey took 2 days in the cramped shuttle. They traveled using coded Confederation channels, avoiding both Nexus-controlled space and major Confederation fleet movements. When the command ship appeared on their view screen, Jack felt his breath catch. The vessel was enormous, nearly the size of a small moon with sweeping structures that resembled crystalline wings. "Sending approach codes now," Kir Ral said, his long fingers moving over the control panel. "Prepare yourselves." For a tense moment, there was no response. Then the command ship's docking bay opened like a massive mouth. "We're clear to land," Kir Ral said. "Remember the plan." The landing went smoothly. Kir Ral led the humans through the ship's corridors, speaking in rapid Valori to any crew they encountered. His rank and clearance kept questions to a minimum. "The research laboratories are on the central level. he whispered as they entered a transport tube. Dr. Wells should be there. The tube deposited them in a wide corridor lined with laboratory entrances. Valori scientists moved purposefully between rooms, barely glancing at the newcomers. This way. Kirral directed them toward a heavily guarded door at the far end. How do we get past those guards? Patricia asked quietly. Before Kirral could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The guards at the door snapped to attention, then rushed away toward some greater emergency. That's not part of our plan, Frank said. Kirral looked confused. No, but it's the Nexus, Jack realized. They're attacking the command ship. This might be our only chance. They hurried to the now unguarded door. Kirral pressed his hand to the scanner and the door slid open. Inside was a large laboratory filled with advanced equipment, and there, working at a central console, was Dr. Diane Wells. She looked up in shock as they entered. Jack? Is that really you? Jack moved quickly to her side. We don't have much time. The ship is under attack. Diane's eyes widened. The Nexus found us. They've been hunting this ship for months. She gestured to her work. Because of what I discovered. We know about the human brain interference, Patricia said. Kyle Bennett told us. Kyle's alive. Diane looked stunned. I thought all the test subjects were. She shook her head. Never mind. There's more to it than just interference. We can actively disrupt their network. The human mind creates patterns the Nexus can't predict or counter. A violent shudder ran through the ship. The lights flickered. We need to go, Frankie urged. Is there a way to download your research? Diane nodded and quickly transferred her data to a portable device. But the prototype is too large to move. She pointed to a bulky apparatus in the corner. It amplifies the human brainwave pattern. We were preparing to test it. Another explosion rocked the ship. The laboratory door slid open, and a squad of Valori security forces rushed in, weapons drawn. Humans, the leader shouted. How did you? He spotted Kirral. Traitor! Jack pushed Diane behind him, ready to fight. But before the Valori could fire, the far wall of the laboratory exploded inward. Through the breach came 3 Nexus units, their metallic bodies reconfiguring as they entered. The Valori security team turned and fired at this new threat. Energy beams struck the Nexus units but seemed to do little damage. The machines advanced methodically, cutting down the Valori with precise energy pulses. This way, Kirral shouted, pointing to a side exit. To the communications center. They ran, dodging fallen debris and panicked Valori crew members. The ship was in chaos, with battle stations sounding and evacuation orders blaring over the comm system. The communications center was deserted when they arrived. Kirral immediately began working the controls. What are you doing? Jack asked. If we're going to die here, we can at least tell the truth, Kirral said grimly. I'm opening a channel to all Confederation worlds. On the main view screen, the Nexus attack was visible from external cameras. Dozens of the geometric ships surrounded the command vessel, methodically cutting through its defenses. This is scientist Kirral of the Valori High Council. Kirral began, broadcasting on all frequencies. What I'm about to tell you is the truth that has been hidden from all Confederation citizens. As Kirral revealed the Valori deception, Jack watched the tactical display with growing concern. The Nexus forces were breaking through to the central levels of the ship. How long until they reach us? He asked Frank. Minutes, maybe less, Frank replied. Diane was studying the communication system. This broadcast equipment, I could modify it to generate the same effect as my prototype. It won't stop the Nexus ships, but it might disrupt the units already aboard. Do it, Jack ordered. As Diane worked, Kirral finished his broadcast. The humans are not our enemy. They may be our only hope against the Nexus. On screens throughout the ship, on planets across the Confederation, the truth was finally being heard. A distant explosion signaled that the Nexus forces were getting closer. Diane worked frantically, connecting her portable device to the communication array. It's ready, she said finally. But it needs a human operator. The interface requires direct neural contact. Jack stepped forward. I'll do it. Jack, no. Patricia protested. The neural feedback could kill you. We're out of options, Jack said quietly. Get to the shuttle. Try to reach the breakthrough team. If this works, you'll have a chance to escape. Before anyone could argue further, Jack placed his hands on the neural interface pads. Pain shot through his body as his mind connected to the system. Through the agony, he focused on a single thought: disruption. Throughout the ship, the advancing Nexus units suddenly stopped. Their smooth movements became jerky, uncoordinated. Some collapsed entirely. On the view screen, they could see the same effect spreading to the Nexus ship surrounding the command vessel. They weren't destroyed, but they were temporarily confused, like a computer trying to process contradictory instructions. It was working, and for the first time since the war began, humanity had found a way to fight back. With the galaxy in ruins, humanity landed, and the war was never the same. Part 5. Humanity's stand 1 year had passed since the battle on the Valori command ship. Captain Laura Wilson stood on the bridge of the Resolution, a human vessel retrofitted with Confederation technology. Through the view screen, she watched the gathering fleet, the largest combined force in galactic history. Final systems check complete, reported Paul Davis, her chief engineer. The disruption device is online and stable. Laura nodded. And the human operators? All 20 volunteers are in position, Paul confirmed. Dr. Wells says they're ready. After Jack Hayes had demonstrated the effectiveness of human brainwaves against the Nexus, everything had changed. The Confederation Supreme Commander, facing extinction, had agreed to an alliance with the remaining human forces. The Valori leadership had been dissolved, replaced by a war council that included representatives from all species, including humans. Dr. Wells had expanded her research, developing a more powerful version of the disruption device. But there was a problem. The system required human operators. The neural interface was dangerous, potentially fatal with extended use. Every human who connected to the system risked their life. Captain, incoming transmission from Confederation Command, announced the communications officer. The holographic display activated, showing Admiral Ben Ward, the highest-ranking surviving human military officer. Captain Wilson status report, the Admiral requested. All systems green, Admiral, Laura replied. The Resolution is ready for the operation. Admiral Ward's expression was grim. The latest intelligence confirms the Nexus has established its central hub at the Arcturus Nexus point. Our window of opportunity is narrow. If we fail... He didn't need to finish the sentence. If they failed, both human and Confederation civilizations would fall. The Nexus would consume everything. We won't fail, sir, Laura said firmly. Good hunting, Captain. Earth stands with you. The transmission ended. Laura turned to her bridge crew, a mix of humans and Confederation species working side by side. Who would have imagined this a year? Go. Set course for Arcturus, she ordered. Prepare for jump. The Resolution led the way, followed by the combined fleet. The plan was simple but dangerous. The fleet would engage the Nexus defenses while the Resolution, carrying the disruption device, pushed through to the central hub. Once there, they would activate the device, creating a massive interference field that would disrupt the entire Nexus network. The regular fleet could then destroy the temporarily disabled Nexus ships. The journey to Arcturus took 3 days. As they emerged from the final jump point, the fleet faced the enemy. Hundreds of Nexus ships surrounded a massive structure at the center, a perfect geometric sphere that pulsed with energy. My God, whispered someone on the bridge. All ships battle formation, Laura commanded. Begin the approach. The Confederation fleet moved forward, energy weapons blazing. The Nexus responded immediately, its ships moving with machine precision to intercept. Stay on course, Laura ordered as the Resolution pushed ahead. All power to forward shields. The first hits rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed across control panels. Shields at 80%, reported the tactical officer. The Nexus is concentrating fire on us. They know what we're trying to do. Laura wasn't surprised. The Nexus had been adapting, learning. It recognized the human threat. Evasive pattern Delta, she ordered. We need to be unpredictable. The resolution zigzagged through space, its movements following no logical pattern. A flight path designed by human intuition rather than computer calculations. It confused the Nexus targeting systems, allowing them to push closer to the central hub. But the Nexus adjusted quickly. More ships moved to intercept, forming a barrier between the resolution and its target. We can't break through, Paul warned. There are too many of them. Laura made a quick decision. Set collision course with the nearest Nexus defense cluster. Captain? Paul looked shocked. We're going to ram through, Laura explained. The resolution wasn't built to survive this mission. It was built to deliver the disruption device to the target. Understanding dawned on the crew's faces. This had always been a one-way trip. All hands prepare for impact, Laura announced over the ship-wide comm. Non-essential personnel to escape pods. The resolution accelerated toward the Nexus formation. The enemy ships fired continuously, their energy beams tearing into the human vessel's shields. Shields failing, the tactical officer reported calmly. Stay on course, Q, Laura ordered. The impact was tremendous. The resolution tore through 3 Nexus ships before breaking apart. Alarms blared as sections of the ship decompressed. Hull breach on decks 3 through 7, Paul reported. Engine core destabilizing. Laura checked the tactical display. They had broken through the defensive line, but the resolution was finished. Abandoned ship. All personnel to the forward section. As the crew rushed to comply, Laura contacted Dr. Wells in the science lab. Status of the disruption device? Intact, Diane replied. But we need to get closer to the hub. The effective range is limited. The ship won't make it, Laura told her. We need a new plan. Paul stepped forward. The device is portable. We could load it onto the last shuttle. It was their only option. The remaining crew, just 12 people now, gathered in the shuttle bay. The disruption device, about the size of a small car, was secured in the center of the shuttle. The neural interface still needs a human operator, Dr. Wells reminded them. At this range, the feedback will be intense. No one spoke for a moment. Then Paul stepped forward. I'll do it. Chief, Laura began. My choice, Captain, Paul said firmly. Get the rest of the crew to the escape pods. I'll take the shuttle. In. There was no time to argue. The resolution was breaking apart around them. Laura clasped Paul's hand briefly. Good luck, Chief. See you on the other side, Captain. The shuttle launched as the remaining crew headed for the escape pods. Laura watched from the pod's small viewport as Paul piloted the shuttle directly toward the Nexus hub. Nexus ships swarmed after it, but the small vessel was faster, more maneuverable. When the shuttle's propulsion failed, hit by Nexus fire, Paul continued the mission. Laura could see him on the communication screen, manually pushing the device. The final distance in his spacesuit. At the Nexus core, Paul connected himself to the neural interface. His face contorted in pain as the connection activated. His human brainwaves, amplified 1,000-fold by the device, broadcast outward. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Across the battlefield, Nexus ships froze, their perfect coordination shattered. Some collided with each other while others drifted aimlessly. All ships attack now, Admiral Ward commanded. The Confederation fleet surged forward, weapons blazing at the disabled Nexus vessels. In her escape pod, Laura watched the battle turn. For the first time since the war began, the Nexus was retreating. Paul's sacrifice had given them their chance, and the combined fleet seized it. 5 years later, Earth's rebuilding was well underway. The Nexus had been driven to the far reaches of the galaxy, its central intelligence fractured by the disruption device. In a ceremony marking the official end of the war, newly elected Human Confederation Ambassador Jack Hayes, who had survived his own neural interface experience, stood with representatives from all species. They gathered before a memorial bearing the names of all who had given their lives. Paul Davis's name was at the center. Beneath it was an inscription. The unpredictability they feared became the salvation they needed. With the galaxy in ruins, humanity landed, and the war was never the same. As the gathered crowd observed a moment of silence, Jack thought about the strange path that had brought them here. The Valori had feared humanity's unpredictable, intuitive minds. The Nexus had been unable to counter human unpredictability. What had seemed like weakness, humanity's chaotic, emotional nature, had proved to be their greatest strength. The galaxy would rebuild, stronger than before, and humanity would help lead the way.